Under the floodlit canopy of the Estadio da Luz, Lisbon held its breath on a January night in 2026. The air was thick with salt from the Tagus and the sharp tang of anticipation. 65,000 voices rose in a rolling wave of red and white, a living tide that pulsed against the white fortress of Real Madrid. Shadows stretched long across the pitch as the Champions League phase reached its final, unforgiving breath. This was no ordinary fixture. Jose Mourinho, the special one, returned to his roots, faced the Galacticos who once carried his own ambitions. The stadium lights burned like distant stars, and every blade of grass seemed to wait for history to ignite. The whistle pierced the roar, and the ball rolled into motion. Benfica's players moved with the hunger of men defending their house. Real Madrid, in their pristine white, carried the weight of eternal expectation. Kylian Mbappé glided like Mercury across the turf, eyes scanning for the half-second of space that could unravel everything. The night already smelled of thunder. Rain had threatened earlier, but held back, as if the sky itself wanted to witness what was coming. In that first touch, the match declared its intention. Raw, relentless, a duel between two giants where neither could afford mercy. The crowd's chant crashed like waves on rock, and somewhere in the stands, a flare bloomed orange and gold. This was the Champions League at its most primal, a collision of eras, egos, and dreams under the same unforgiving lights. The 2025-26 Champions League phase had been a crucible of unpredictability. 12 matches, no easy nights, every point a currency for survival. Benfica, under Mourinho's iron grip, had clawed their way into contention. Disciplined, counter-attacking, ever beautiful, but brutally effective. Real Madrid, still the benchmark, had glided through with Mbappé's lightning and a midfield that could bend games to their will. Yet both teams arrived at the Estadio da Luz on January 28th, knowing one result could rewrite their paths. Benfica chasing a playoff berth on goal difference. Madrid desperate to avoid the unseeded draw. Mourinho's return to Benfica was the undercurrent of every headline. The man who once conquered Europe with Porto and Inter now stood in the dugout of his boyhood club, facing the team he had lifted the trophy with twice before. The narrative was irresistible. Master versus former empire, the tactician who thrived on chaos against the side that defined dominance. Lisbon remembered his past glories. Madrid remembered his ruthless pragmatism. The fixture carried ghosts, old battles, old wounds, and the unspoken promise that Mourinho never forgives easy nights. The league phase had already delivered shocks, but this match held extra gravity. A Benfica win would force Real Madrid into the seeded playoffs. Defeat would consign the Eagles to elimination. The stakes were etched into every face on the pitch. Vangelis Pavlidis' quiet intensity, Andreas Schjelderup's restless energy, Mbappé's coiled spring of speed. The Estadio da Luz was no longer just a stadium. It was a courtroom, a battlefield, a cathedral of consequence. The match ignited under the Estadio da Luz floodlights, Benfica pressing with ferocious hunger, forcing Real Madrid into frantic clearances that echoed through the packed stands. In the 30th minute, the visitors struck first. Raul Asensio whipped a precise cross from the right, and Kylian Mbappé rose imperiously to power a header beyond Anatoly Trubin, his 12th goal of the league phase, a new record. 0-1, Real Madrid. The black shirts exhaled. The red tide seemed momentarily checked. Benfica answered almost instantly. 6 minutes later, Asensio slipped under pressure, gifting Vangelis Pavlidis space to cross low. Andreas Schjelderup met it with a firm header that bulleted past Thibaut Courtois. 1-1. The stadium roared back to life, a wall of sound crashing against the night. Deep in first-half stoppage time, the pendulum swung again. a penalty awarded after a foul in the box. Pavlidis stepped up, unflinching, and stroked it low past Courtois. 2-1 Benfica at the interval. The home fans sensed destiny stirring. The second half exploded wider. Scheldrup claimed his brace in the 54th minute, ghosting into dangerous space to slot a composed low finish beyond the keeper. 3-1 Benfica. Lapp refused to let the game slip away. 4 minutes later, he curled home his second from Arda Güler's low cross, a clinical strike that pulled Madrid back to 3-2. The pitch became a cauldron of flying tackles, flashing tempers, and lightning-quick transitions. Benfica's backline held with iron resolve. Every clearance greeted by thunderous cheers. Every forward foray laced with electric hope as the clock edged toward its dramatic reckoning. The match reached its fracture line in the 85th minute. Raul Asensio, already on a booking, lunged at Scheldrup's ankles and caught only air and sin. Straight red. Madrid down to 10. The stadium sensed blood. Moments later, Rodrigo's frustration boiled over a reckless challenge. Another card, another expulsion. 9 against 11. The white shirts looked suddenly fragile, their shape broken, their rhythm shattered. The air grew electric. Every Benfica touch was cheered like a goal. Mourinho paced the touchline, arms folded, face unreadable. His players smelled the kill. Madrid retreated into a shell, desperate to hold the draw that would secure seeding. But Benfica smelled opportunity. The clock ticked into stoppage time, and the home side pressed higher, suffocating space. The crowd became a single voice, willing the ball forward. Fatigue carved lines into every face, but the will remained unbroken. Then, in the 96th minute, a free kick wide on the right. Frederick Aursens curled it deep, the ball hanging in the floodlights like a promise. Every player in the box rose, but one man climbed highest. Anatoly Trubin, the goalkeeper, the last line, the man who had kept Benfica alive all night. Time slowed as he met the ball with his forehead. The header powered downward, past Courtois' despairing reach, and buried itself in the net. 4-2. The Estadio da Luz exploded a sound like the sky splitting open. Trubin wheeled away, arms wide, mouth open in disbelief. His teammates swarmed him, lifting the 6 feet 5 inches frame as if he weighed nothing. The goalkeeper had become the hero, the man who had saved them all night, now delivering the killing blow in the 98th minute. The final whistle followed soon after, and the scoreboard told the impossible truth. Benfica 4, Real Madrid 2. The Benfica players sank to their knees, tears mixing with sweat. Mourinho stood motionless, a rare flicker of emotion crossing his face before he turned to applaud the crowd. Madrid's stars looked hollow, the weight of defeat etched deep. Lapp stared at the turf, hands on hips, as if searching for an answer that would not come. The stadium lights seemed brighter now, the night forever marked by this single, improbable act. In that moment, football revealed its cruel poetry. The goalkeeper, the quiet guardian, had stepped into legend. The ball, struck with desperation and met with perfect timing, had rewritten destinies. Benfica had seized their playoff place on goal difference. Real Madrid would enter the seeded playoffs, but the story belonged to Lisbon. This was more than a result. It was a reminder that even empires can bleed. Real Madrid, the most decorated club in Europe, reduced to 9 men and beaten by a goalkeeper's header in the dying seconds. Benfica, under Mourinho's calculated fire, had shown that heart and discipline can still topple giants. The match exposed the fragility beneath the glamour. A red card here, a moment of madness there, and the script is torn apart. The rematch now looms in the knockout playoffs. a two-legged tie that carries the weight of unfinished business. Mourinho against his former club once more. Trubin against the forwards who could not stop him. Lap against the memory of a night that slipped away. Football rarely offers neat closure, but it always offers second acts. The deeper truth lingers. Nights like this are why we watch. When the improbable becomes real, when the last man becomes the savior, the game reminds us that it is not always the strongest who prevail, but the ones who refuse to surrender. The floodlights dimmed slowly over the Estadio da Luz, but the echo of that final roar refused to fade. Trubin's header hangs in the Lisbon sky like a new constellation, a goalkeeper's arc against the night, a symbol of defiance and wonder. The ball, once a simple object, became a miracle in flight. The stadium, once a place of stone and steel, became a living memory. As the players left the pitch, the fans remained, singing into the cold air. They sang for the past, for the present, for the rematch that waits. Football, at its core, is this: a fleeting moment when the impossible feels inevitable, when one touch can change everything. And so the night folded into legend. Benfica had not just won a match, they had reminded the world that even in the shadow of giants, miracles still arrive on the head of the last man standing. The Champions League continues, but this chapter belongs forever to Lisbon, Terra Trubin, and to the beautiful, brutal poetry of the game.